All right. Check, check. Check, check. Look at that. I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. All right. Well, welcome for everybody that's just logging in today. Happy Friday. Looking forward to the weekend. Today, we're going to do a 101 on the government contracting profession, how to get into it, either starting your business, selling to the government, becoming a consultant. If you don't have a business, if you want to learn government contracting, approach it as a consultant. That's what I do. And also, we might touch on how you go out there and grab one of those high-paying account executive jobs, which is something that most people aren't talking about, but public sector sales is one of the most profitable sales positions you can get into just due to the complexity of government contracting. So I think this will be good for everyone. If someone could just throw a test in the chat, I just want to make sure that that is on. You can ask questions there. Also, thumbs up if you can hear me. I want to make sure everyone can hear me there as well. All right. Very cool. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Well, first and foremost, let's just talk about what government contracting is. And I know some of you, thanks guys. Thanks, Freddie. I know some of you probably also have questions if you're in this space about what's been going on with the Doge and, the spending and everything. If you've followed my content, you know that I am, if nothing else, I'm doubling down. I see a lot of opportunity for 2025. Not concerned, but that doesn't mean we don't have to pay attention, right? So we have to approach this, from the standpoint of knowing government contracting is always changing. Funding is always moving around. New presidents are always coming in. There's always funding cuts and there's always increases in spending. And there's always people being let go and then rehired. So we just want to figure out where we want to position ourselves in all of this. So government contracting, what is it? Well, the U.S. government puts companies on contract to do the thousands of things that it needs just in order to survive, right? And that's everything from, accounting services, cybersecurity, landscaping, construction. I've been challenged over the years to try to find areas where the government actually doesn't spend, right? I know at one point a couple of years back, we were looking at even marijuana and we found marijuana purchases. So the government buys just about everything that you could think of. Some things there isn't as much spending, and that's fine. But we want to know that. So my approach has always been approach government contracting with knowledge. Also, I have some biases, and I'm going to tell you about those biases right now before we get into just the overview, which I promised in, the YouTube title and the thumbnail. So, by the way, Rick Howard, former government acquisitions officer. Acquisitions is the profession of putting companies on contract for the government. So that's what I did for the Air Force on the backside of my career. Around $82 billion in contracts managed in various ways. Then I've been helping and mainly training and instructing companies and sales teams on the government contracting process since then. And we run GovClose right now, which is a certification program. So it's not a course you click through. It is a one-year program that our students, I say students, but a lot of the people in there are my age or older, and some are young, just out of college, but they're going out there and they are getting jobs. They're beating out their competition. They're starting government contracting businesses. And a lot of them are going into consulting, starting their own consulting practices. So that's what I do. And let's get into those biases. Thanks, Freddie. I'll get to your question here in a minute. First, government contracting is hard. Government contracting is not a get rich quick anything. In my view, the hardest entity to sell to is the U.S. government. So harder than B2B, harder than B2C. So just to kind of stake my claim in this space, I want to make sure that I'm being honest with everybody. I think it's easier to sell B2B and B2C. So for those consultants out there, you're selling to other businesses. Now, why would you sell to the government if it's the hardest? And why is it the hardest? Well, it's the hardest because it's complicated and it takes a long time, 6 to 18 months. And I'm thinking about just telling people it takes 2 years because you have to be committed to a process. That doesn't mean you can't win a contract faster than that, right? There's always outliers, right? There are quicker contracting methods. It's a huge, huge area. But just know that the process can be lengthy and it's complicated. So you want to approach it with knowledge and you want to be very targeted with what you do. You don't want to waste time. You don't want to waste money. That's my approach. And of course, it can be very, very lucrative. That's why people are in government contracting. That's why companies do it. For the most part, despite what we're hearing on the news, government contracts, if you have a government contract, that is a source of revenue that is typically very, very stable. Now, even if, for instance, the government decided to cancel a contract with you, which they've always been able to do, it's called termination for convenience. You can go back and have the government pay you for all of your lost effort. That's what we've done with clients in the past. That's what you could do if you had a contract with the government. So even if the government does cancel a contract, which happens very rarely, you could still, there's a mechanism, legal mechanism for you to go and still get paid. And, contracting officers are certainly aware of that. So it's hard, it's complex, it takes a long time, but since very few people actually understand the process, it creates an enormous opportunity for those of us that do. Less than half of 1% of small businesses in the United States sell to the US government. So what does that mean? Well, it's over 33 million small businesses in the United States. Last I checked, it was somewhere between 60 and 70,000, and I have exact numbers in other posts. So this isn't a post about numbers, but I certainly have those out there. You can see the government publishes all of their contracts. So we can see how many companies win contracts. We can see how much the companies are making. We can see what the contracts are for, and we can see how much the contracts are for. There's actually over 300 different criteria with each contract that we can see. And this is the beauty of government contracting. Once we understand the process and we understand that all this information is available, which isn't available in the B2B space, not the way that it is here, now we can be very targeted. We can know exactly what we're getting into, right? So if you have less than half of 1% of small businesses selling to the government, and you have a mandate from the government to put small businesses on contract that's set by the SBA, usually around 23%, but they also often beat that. Last year, 2024, fiscal year 2024, it was around 28% of small businesses of the contracts that were led by the government went to small businesses. That's amazing. And even more amazing and startling is that, and by the way, that was in the tune of around $187, $189 billion. The number of small businesses selling to the government is going down year over year, but they're making more money. The government is spending more money year over year on these contracts. So there's when you look at it from that perspective, it is an amazing opportunity. Now, where people get lost, the reason there are so few businesses is they don't know about the opportunity. They don't know that the government buys legal services if they're a law firm. They don't think about the fact that, hey, the government, if you're a roofing company, the government is constantly redoing the roofs on these. Every base is a small town, every military base, not to mention all the other agencies out there own buildings and stuff. If you do it, social media advertising. Yep, absolutely. The government is putting money on social media advertising, dry cleaning, janitorial services, all of that stuff, and thousands of more things that you wouldn't even believe are being put on contract by the government. So not aware of the opportunity, and then complexity. Selling to the government, it's just not the same as selling B2B or B2C. It's not. It's been regulated since the birth of this country, since our founding fathers. We actually have letters from, I find it fascinating. Most people probably wouldn't, but we actually have letters from George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, later on about the contracting process, positive and negative, upset with contractors that didn't deliver, or upset with government officials that took advantage of the system. And then what ends up happening is policies are made to kind of correct that, to make sure there are checks and balances, to make sure that we're eliminating corruption. Whenever that happens, it takes longer to put someone on contract. It becomes more complicated. And this has been going on over and over and over again. Like there's a cycle. Go to war, try to make government contracting faster. Somebody abuses the system. A bunch of politicians come in and who didn't understand the process to begin with. And now they're going to make policies and stuff because they want to get elected. Now we have this ever increasing pile of policies and bureaucracies that then we go to war again, the whole thing flips, and it's just this hamster wheel that keeps on going. And now we are where we are. And we're in the same thing now. We see the thing with Doge and Elon Musk. This has been going on for hundreds of years. Okay. So this is one of the reasons that I am not fazed by anything that I'm hearing in the news. Most of it is by people that don't understand how funding works or contracts or the law. And what's happening now is it's just louder. So that's kind of the state of things, right? Huge opportunity, huge spends, money available for companies in almost every industry. So if you're a business, there's an opportunity. If you have a business, you're selling commercially already, whether it's to businesses or commercially, you have an opportunity to potentially sell to the government. That's a government revenue stream that you can add to your business. Not only does it make your business more robust and more profitable, but it also makes your business a hell of a lot more valuable if you have eyes on selling it down the road. So for business owners, a huge opportunity. For individuals, right? And this is where I differ from a lot of people. If you don't have a business, then I am almost always going to tell you, don't start a government contracting business. Certainly not as a middleman. And if you've seen my videos, you know how I feel about that. Terrible business model in 99% of cases out there. If you don't have a business, but you're interested in government contracting, if you're a veteran, if you're leaving the military, you worked in the government, or you're just a profession doing anything, right? Medical, sales for anything, even construction workers, whatever you did, if you are interested in government contracting, but you don't have a business, what I would tell you to do is learn the expertise of government contracting, learn part of it, focus on one thing, learn it really well, and you can help other companies sell to the government. You can have a great business doing that. I've done it. And of course you could say, Rick, you are a government acquisitions officer, but we aren't. That's fine. And you're right. For the most part, most of the people watching this are not government acquisitions officers, but and we can't, I don't even know if YouTube will let me share my screen right now. We've got guys we've trained like right out of college that are getting hired as government contracting consultants, multiple consulting clients, also for businesses. And the reason they're getting hired, and I'm not going to make this a sales pitch just for my GovClose program. You guys can check it out. That's at govclose.com. By the way, I would ask anyone watching just to subscribe and like what's going on. That helps our algorithm, helps get the message out there. But the point is, you can learn a piece of it. And this is what we do. We teach them a piece of it that they learn better than anyone. Like there's not, even the salespeople in the public sector, this doesn't go for everyone, but you would be shocked how many public sector sales executives, business developers have never received any training, right? So they know like something that's worked for them, right? And there are some great ones out there. But if you learn part of it, like for instance, how to find leads before a solicitation comes out, that is a excellent, just knowing that there's a market research phase before the RFP or RFQ comes out that will set you apart from everybody else out there, because most people don't even think about it. They're not even aware. Most companies that fail at selling to the government, actually, what they're trying to do is they're trying to war dog the whole thing. If you've seen the movie War Dogs, hey, I'm going to sam.gov. It was Fed Biz Ops in the movie. Now it's sam.gov. I'm going to sam.gov. Hey, this solicitation came out. I'm going to write a proposal on this RFQ or this RFP. And then they don't win anything, right? And this is, by the way, core to my philosophy, right, is depending on what you're selling, there are very few things that I would tell you you can start with the RFP or RFQ. If you're selling low dollar products, if you're selling toilet paper and tools, yes, but I don't get involved with that because I don't like the business model. But for just about everything else, what we're doing is we are starting way before that solicitation comes out, because there's a legal phase of acquisitions called the market research phase that comes before that RFP or RFQ drops. That's where we can talk to the government contracting office. That's where we can influence these opportunities, right? That's where we can. So for instance, you guys, if you want to throw what you sell or what you're interested in the comments, I can kind of hit that as we're going along. But even if you're doing a trade like a house painting, right? Well, you could find out when the VA is going to be painting the base and start talking with the acquisitions offices that would put you on contract. And we can find all that information because it's publicly available. All of it is. Unless you're talking about something that's classified, even most of the classified transactions like meaning the government's buying something, a technology that will be classified. Hey, I'm setting up a network in a classified environment. I can still see the contracting action, but I might not see the specifics of the contract, right? And there are some things that you're never going to see. But those are few and far between. Like most of the government purchases, we can see everything on usaspending.gov. And anyone that watches my stuff knows that I'm a huge fan of that website. And I've done multiple, guys, I got hundreds of free videos on the channel you can go to if you want to learn how to use USA Spending. But I can see all of the offices that put house painters on contract, and I can reach out to them. I can look at sources sought on sam.gov. That sources sought is essentially the government saying, I have money and a requirement, and we are now in the market research phase, and I'm asking questions. Is there a woman-owned small business that can do this work? Is there a service-disabled veteran-owned small business that can do this work? Hey, I don't know anything about, the latest in paint, right? So is there a new kind of paint? Is there a company out there that can do corrosion control or, some type of painting that will last longer than, the normal Benjamin Moore? Well, they can ask all those questions in a sources sought before a solicitation comes out. You can respond to that. You can meet with the office. I mean, think about how much more likely you're going to be to win a contract if you respond to the sources sought. Not only, and by the way, in the sources sought, it's a bit of an art form because you don't just have to reply to the questions that the government asks. You can put anything into that sources sought you want because it says right in there, this will not result in a contract. And I think a lot of companies see that and they're like, I'm not going to waste my time in this. It's not going to result in a contract. Well, it's right and it's wrong. That sources sought response, like you don't get awarded a contract because of your response to that. But this is the precursor to the solicitation. So when you do respond to this, you can influence what goes into the solicitation. Let's say you're that house painter and you have a special certification. Well, now in the sources sought, even though the government didn't ask for it, I'm going to say, hey, yes, I can do X, Y, and Z. I can paint the base. I'm an SDV OSB or I'm not. By the way, you can recommend that the government sets aside a contract here. And then I could say, hey, I recommend you include this environmental certification because, this is X, Y, and Z. Here are the reasons why. And, we get better results. It's good for the environment. There's no conflict and blah, blah, blah. Or I could recommend that they don't include that certification, right? I could say, hey, I could see, hey, the administration doesn't like that certification, the new one. I recommend no certification needed. It's really unnecessary. And you can make your case for it. This is a place where you can do that. And even better, I can request a meeting with the government. And that's key, right? Think about that, right? I've answered their questions. I've made some legitimate recommendations. Now I've asked for a meeting. Now I can go in and meet with them, maybe do a site survey, maybe brief them on my company. But what I'm doing is learning a little bit more about the effort, right? I'm helping them construct the solicitation a little bit more. There's so much. And then by the time I actually get to the solicitation, sorry, my phone was going off there. By the time I get to that solicitation, I know the contracting officer. I met with him or her. I've briefed them. I've helped them write the solicitation. And now you're going up against 2 or 3 people that like the government's hearing for the first time from these people. You know more. You might have looked at the base. You might know that maybe there are some buildings that you're not going to be able to access with your equipment very easily. So you're going to add some time in for that. And you want to address that in the solicitation. There's a lot you could do there. Let me go to the questions here real quick. So Freddie, my question is simple. I know you can answer it after this. I just want to ask you, I'm an electrical contractor and I would like to team up with somebody, let's see, for opportunities like that here. Well, I think what you're saying is you want to either work with another company as a prime or a subcontractor. Is that what you're asking? Freddie, you could put, whatever response in there, but if you want to approach as a subcontractor or you want to team up, this is what I would do. I recommend you go to sam.gov. Then I recommend you go and you find a sources sought for the electrical work that you're talking about. And there's probably a part of that work where either you can't do it or you'd like some help with. Then I would look on usaspending.gov you can find a company, a small business that's done that kind of work. Not only that, you can find a company that's done that kind of work with the agency that you are looking at the sources sought for. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, it's the Air Force, because that's where I come from. So the Air Force put out a sources sought for electrical work. You are looking at that. Now you reach out to a couple companies that you know have done work with the Air Force in electrical. And you know that because you went to usaspending.gov and you can type it in, look at one of my videos if you don't know how to use it. And you can find all that information out really quickly. Now, when you reach out to them, it's a very easy email because you're like, hey, I'm looking at an opportunity with the Air Force for electrical work. I'd like to team up on that. They're going to respond to you. You've done the work. You found the opportunity. You can even go ahead and reach out to the Air Force office with some questions. Now you've been talking with them. So that's what I recommend. Gary, I don't understand from your videos if you have your own employees that do consulting and such, or if you subcontract this. Yeah, I mean, that's probably my fault for for making just tons and tons of videos through basically from the time I left the Air Force to now. So, Gary, I started off running a consulting business. And all I was doing when I started was helping small businesses sell to the government. So I had my own consulting clients, meaning I was working directly with small businesses. Eventually, one of them offered me a position. And this is what we teach in our course too, because by the way, these consulting clients, just to give you an idea, if you want to approach this from a consultant standpoint, a consulting client for the government, if you're working with a business, these businesses, this is a high dollar consulting adventure that you would be going on, right? So whether you write proposals or you're doing business development, on average, on a monthly fee basis, I would be making somewhere, even when I first started, somewhere between $4,500 to $12,000 a month from each client. Now, you get to the point where you just can't do all the work yourself. So I did, in fact, hire people. Most of them were 1099s. I still hire people, right, to do work. So I would have multiple clients. I would have 1099s, and one of my companies that was paying me eventually hired me to be a sales rep for them. Now, they knew I was a consultant because that's how I started out with them. And I told them the same thing I told Boeing and Lockheed and everybody else when I originally left the Air Force. I don't want a full-time job with a company. I'm going to be consulting. And a lot of the big companies don't like that. But the middle companies, the mid-size and lower, they don't care. They basically will tell you, hey, as long as you're bringing the money in, if you're making sales, you can work 2 hours a week. We don't care. So that's the kind of deal that I had there. So selling, right? So I was selling software and, a couple $1 million in software sales or so for the company I was working for. Then I had multiple clients. And Gary, one of the things that I would be doing with my clients is training their sales teams, because like I kind of mentioned at the beginning of this, most companies and most of the salespeople that work for them, they kind of learn by doing. There's not a lot of formalized training in this. And so I would be teaching their sales teams how to sell to the government. What is the government looking for? And of course, I knew because I was on the government side doing that, right? So I knew exactly what they should be doing. And I was eventually selling myself software. And I learned more. There's always something to learn. So as I started training them more and more and formalizing that training and building things like CRMs for them, right? Because a CRM, your typical CRM that's designed for B2B or B2C, it just doesn't work for the government. So some companies are using spreadsheets. So eventually I also designed a CRM. So now I was training them, doing the CRM. And by the way, I like to train. I mean, I was an instructor, Air Force aviation instructor, a ton of acquisitions training with other companies while I was a program manager in acquisitions. So I think it just comes naturally to me, but my business started pivoting towards training sales teams. And then as our YouTube following and podcast started growing, I started getting a lot of veterans come to me. A lot of people without businesses were seeing this and saying, hey, I heard about this middleman thing and I lost all my money or it's not working. I'd be like, yeah, don't do that. It's the wrong approach. I'm like, hey, what I could do is I could teach you how to sell to the government, just like these sales teams. But then you have to make money with that, right? So the backside of that is I'll show you how to start a consulting business like I've done, or go get a job like I've done, or you could sell to the government too. So Hopefully that answers your question, Gary. Eventually, what we ended up putting all this in is what we call govclose.com. That's my certification program. So that's the 1-year program where people will come through, mainly individuals looking to start a consulting business, meaning learning government contracting and then selling their expertise to companies like I've been describing, or to get a job. And those are high-paying jobs, high-paying 6-figure jobs. Even the guys that are just getting out of college that have gone through our program, they're getting those jobs as well as people retiring from the military, people leaving other professions. And then some people have businesses that are coming through and they just want to learn government contracting better. And some people are doing all three. They're consulting, they have a business and government contracts, and they're going out getting these jobs. So hopefully that answers your question. That's a little bit overview of my background and what I'm doing now. So maybe I consult far less. I have a couple of clients that I've had for a long time that I still maintain, but most of what I'm doing now is training and instructing sales teams and individuals on government contracting and then how to leverage that in their own business or in a job. Riley, you're a building inspector. Yeah. So as a building inspector, you've got a lot of options, the same options that I was talking about earlier, which is, I would be going in and looking at sources sought, find opportunities early. If I want to break it down in one statement, if you want to win contracts, get meetings, meet with the people in the government that will put you on contract. But we need to unpack that because there's a lot that goes into it. The next thing, don't start with a solicitation, meaning do not start with a request for a proposal or a request for quote. Start with a sources sought. I have entire videos on finding these sources sought and acquisitions forecast. There's mechanisms, there's things you can do to go find these. And so I would be looking for building inspector, sources sought, building inspector, acquisitions forecasts. For building inspector, Riley, it may be that type of work is wrapped up in bigger contracts, right? Maybe bigger construction contracts. That's just my suspicion. By the way, this is part of what we teach in GovClose, is going through. So if I knew, hey, if you were my client and you're a building inspector, what I would do is I would go into USA Spending and some of the other tools that I pay for and see how much money does the government spend on contracts specifically for building inspectors. I would look at what agencies and really what offices in those agencies buy those type of services, right? So just because I've been doing this a while, I could tell you, I would be shocked if the number one purchaser of building inspection services was not the Army Corps of Engineers. But we can get even more specific than that. Which Army Corps of Engineers offices spend the most money? Are you, Riley, because a lot of building inspectors probably have to stay local, right? So if you were in California, I'd be like, okay, which offices in California are making these purchases? I can find out exactly who they are. I can email them, right? We can look at the opportunities coming up. That's where I always start. How much money is it? Is it even worth your while? My suspicion is if we were looking through the actual data, what I'd find is big contracts for construction that maybe have inspection also included in those. And if that was the case, then subcontracting would be a strategy for you, right? And this is why it's important to look at the data. This is why it can get frustrating if you don't plan out how you're going to sell to the government first. We call it road mapping in the course, but once, with a little information, you can go a long way in government contracting. So if I knew that it was Army Corps of Engineers in California, maybe it'll tell you which offices. If I knew subcontracting was primarily what I needed to do, then I'd be looking for opportunities for big construction projects. I would be partnering with those contractors and helping them go after the opportunities with me included as a building inspector. That's one way you could do it. Law school, 1765. I'm looking for consulting opportunities in oil and gas or construction. I have a background in law and politics. Do you have advice on getting started or connecting with companies? Yeah, I mean, you just heard some of it. Law school, 1765. I like your handle there. Well, first of all, if you have a law background, there are a lot of legal opportunities out there as well that the government purchases. Just off the top of my head, one of my clients owns a law firm out on Wall Street in New York. This was, again, I did this research about a year ago, but it still holds true. not bookkeeping, that's accounting. Where's my mind going? Court reporting services. A lot of them are being purchased under the legal, some of the legal codes. There is something, I didn't even know what this was because I'm not a lawyer. Expert witness. Are you familiar with that? That's another one that a lot of money was spent on. That's just two off the top of my head. There's a variety of legal services that the government buys from companies, both small and large. Aside from that, because you're kind of going all over the place, right? You get oil and gas and construction, and you have legal expertise. So I love the legal angle because I don't think you're going to see a lot of competition there. Oil and gas and construction are two very different industries. So what I would recommend you do is a roadmap, just like we talked about for each of them. You're going to go to USA Spending, and you're going to start analyzing the data, big to small. How much does the government spend on construction services? And also you're going to find, a lot of people don't realize, we can see how many proposals are coming in per solicitation. So you can get a really good idea of how much competition there is. You might see in construction that, in residential construction projects because the government does spend a lot, but we're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars in construction. You might see in residential construction that you see a high number of proposals coming in per solicitation, like 30, right? Or more. I've seen a lot more too, especially in software. But you might see that maintenance contracts, only 2 to 3 proposals are coming in, which means your competition's far lower. And that, by the way, I'm just talking. You have to go in and do the work yourself and take a look. But when you start looking at the niches, now we can see where is there high competition, where is there low competition. If you find a low competition niche, you could do very, very, very well. And same thing with oil and gas. You just have to look through the work. Gary, I currently work as an IT consultant, program manager, but I don't have a team. Sounds like you are running the projects yourself. How did you do that plus get new business? Well, Gary, that's the trick of running a consulting business. Any business. Let's start here, right? So I've consulted with, at this point, over 600 different companies. I've seen a lot of really great technology companies in particular fail. They had a great idea, but they had a great idea, and I was about to say that they couldn't execute on it, but they were executing on the idea. They built something really cool that solves a problem, but they built it before they even thought about sales. If you're running a business, and this is something you need to think about if you want to get into a consulting practice or sell into the government, without sales, you don't have a business. I think it's more important to be amazing at sales. This is going to sound a little off, right? But I think it's more important to be amazing at sales than it is to have an amazing business. And what I mean by that is, I don't mean anybody should have a crappy business or provide a crappy service, but I've seen plenty of businesses, you've seen this too, that have very mediocre services, right? Or products, but do extraordinary, have very high sales. Why is that? It's because you have to have a sales team that knows how to sell. And when it's a one-man show, like I was, right? And now I have kind of an army of 1099s that help me, and a few people that are a little bit more than that. But the way I did it is you're always selling. So you don't want to, and consultants have this sine wave, especially the new ones where they sell. So they're constantly selling. Then they get a bunch of clients. But now you have a bunch of clients to do work for, right? Which I think is a question you're asking. Well, then the sales go down and they're working these clients. Well, in a typical consulting business, I read that statistically you keep a consulting client for 3 months. So if you have 5 clients and they last you for 3 months and they all quit at the same time, now you're down here, right? That's the reason you got to keep selling. So there are ways you could do this in an automated way. But you have to be able to sell and run your business at the same time. And the way that I have always approached that is, by the way, government contracting, my clients have lasted a hell of a lot more than 3 months on average. I have some that have lasted for years and years. And, the problem with consulting is consultants are usually the first to go when a company needs to make some cuts. But the good news about having a consulting business is you can have multiple streams of income coming in from multiple companies. And when you do this kind of work, guys, what you're going to see in Gary, like especially with your background, let's say that you are using a combination of email marketing and maybe there are a bunch of companies that actually help consultants get work. You could be doing a combination of those things. And now you have a bunch of clients and you don't have as much time for the marketing. What I do is, if you're a program manager, you're probably used to using like the Gantt charts and working with checklists. I am a checklist. I don't even know what the word I want to use is, but I use a checklist for everything. And that's probably coming from my aviation days. But the first thing that I'm going to do in the morning is email my list. So if you have a website and people are giving you leads, right? If you have and it would be small at first, but I'm engaging with that list. I'm answering questions. Even doing that, and with government contracting, this is not real estate where you have to fight like a maniac for every lead. Like if you understand a part of government contracting, eventually people are going to start coming to you. And for most of you that get into this, as long as you can generate results, you're probably going to get to the point where you just can't do all the work yourself, right? So again, the way I did it is I found a sales mechanism that worked for me, and I made sure I spent, half hour on it a day or whatever. And then I would go and I would segment how I would work with each of my clients. And that's how I ran my business. So hopefully that helps. John Brown. Past performance question. If you have an existing company that has provided IT staff, from Massachusetts, got to get my Dunkin' Donuts on here, guys. Past performance question. You have an existing company. You provided IT staff augmentation services for the state. Can you use that experience as past performance? Okay, here's the thing. Every solicitation that the government puts out is different, okay? And the requirements are going to be different in every single one of them. By the way, that's why I don't do a lot of videos on writing proposals, because I don't want to lead somebody astray. If I show you how to write a proposal for a construction contract, it could be very different, not only from other construction solicitations, but like an IT proposal or a CIBR, like they all differ. But your past performance may not officially count because you've done it with a state, but what you're doing is you're trying to build credibility with the office. And this is why it's so important, again, to work in that market research phase. We're finding these opportunities before the solicitation, so we have the opportunity to talk to the government and let them know about your business. What I'm doing with them, so when I respond to that source of sought, they might want a capability statement, which I am going to write specifically for the opportunity. I'm going to include all of John Brown's IT staff augmentation services that he did with the state. So put my government hat on. If I'm reading that, right, you've engaged with the source of sought. Maybe you're trying to set up a meeting with me, and I'm looking, and you have a company that has passed, like, hey, not only have you sold commercially, but you sold to the state, maybe Massachusetts, Virginia, Maryland, wherever you were doing IT services. I have a lot more confidence in you, right? Everybody's got to start somewhere. So if you have a company, look, the first contract is often the hardest one to get, but it's not impossible to get. You just got to try, and you've got to be persistent over a period of time. And you're always telling the government what you want them to know about your business. And if you're telling me that, hey, if I have to look at you and I'm like, all right, well, look, this company over here, that submitted a proposal, they have past performance with the federal government, but it's maybe not quite what I'm looking for. But you have exactly what I need. You don't have past performance with the Fed government, but you've done work with the state, you've done work local. The scoring may or may not go in your favor there, but like for me as a program manager, I have a lot more confidence in your business. And if you get to me early enough, I'm not in the government anymore, but if you get to that government office early enough, you're going to create that credibility and you're going to eventually get on contract. It's going to work. So I'm always telling them it. I'm telling them about that past performance in whether they ask for it or not. I'm telling it to them in the proposal, as long as it allows for it, the source of sought, screaming it from the roof. So hopefully that helps. Dave Davis. I own an office furniture dealership. I have done some projects with the government, but know I should be winning more. Can you help? Yep, I can. So first thing I would tell you is research the furniture spending from the U.S. government. Furniture is an interesting one because there's a couple different ways to sell. One in particular that I don't recommend to 99% of businesses, but for your business, it would probably work. But before I get to that, I will say the same thing to you that I've told everybody else. Look at the spending in usaspending.gov for the furniture NAICS codes. Who is doing the buying? How are they buying? How are they buying from small businesses? Because you can differentiate that. I can click on small business and see exactly how those purchases are being made. Is furniture being purchased through GSA? David, do you know what GSA is? GSA is a contract vehicle, essentially. They wouldn't say that because it's also a federal agency. But go to the GSA website and look at the schedules. And if you go to usaspending.gov, so you have a few websites to go to here, usaspending.gov, you can get a sense of is GSA, how much spending on furniture goes through GSA? I would imagine quite a bit, but I'm not looking at it right now, so I don't know. You have to do the work on this, or you can go through, hey, anybody listening to this, check out govclose.com if you do want to know more about how we train and about our program, our certification program. It's really, really thorough. It is not fast. It'll take you a while to get through it. Weekly coaching, then a certification by me at the end. And then we put, by the way, once everyone gets certified in our program, this is why it's a year long, everyone goes into the war room. And what that is they go from the weekly coaching to get through the training to our business sessions, essentially. So this is just us talking about our contracts with the government, about how to break through, how to get leads if we have a consulting business, how to price, how our proposals look. Everything, that's everything business. But first step, how much is the government spending on furniture? A lot. If through GSA, you might need a GSA contract. This is why it's so important to do the research. This is what we go over in GovClose. It's make sure we know how the government buys. We can look at it. We can see it. We don't have to guess. So that's the first thing, David. See if GSA is utilized. You might have, that's something you can apply for. If you see that GSA schedules are used by the government, so that's a way that the government can make purchases. You can apply to be on the schedules, especially with the past performance. By the way, if you want, you can hit me up after this, David, and I can put you with a GSA expert, like someone that's in GSA. But I only recommend that if the spending justifies it. If I see that 5 or 10% of purchases are made with GSA, I would say put that on hold for now. Look at how your competitors are winning those contracts. You can see what type of contracts are they? Who are they with? Now, here's the piece that I told you that I would talk about. If you're selling something, anything under 10 grand, especially something like furniture, you can sell that directly to government offices because every government office has a government purchase card. So one way that you could approach this is if you could put a list together of government offices. Now, this is, again, for most of you, don't do this because most people in the government can't buy anything, right? But meaning like the big stuff. No one's, if you ask a pilot, trying to go to a pilot and sell him like an aviation software tool is a waste of your time because that pilot has nothing to do with buying the aviation software. That's an acquisitions officer. But in the case of something like furniture, books, things like that, office supplies to a certain degree, every office has a GPC card and they can make purchases. So for instance, you could try something like every government office has like a bunch of magazines and stuff like trade magazines. If you put a list together and tried putting your office furniture, flyer in those offices, you might be able to get some direct purchases. So I think direct purchases could be an additional income stream for you. Hopefully that helps. Percy Payne. Yeah. I think you want to connect on LinkedIn. I want to say that my LinkedIn here, I'm just going to see if I can click on my profile and bring it up for you. I want to say it's at Ricky C. Howard. I should know that off the top of my head. Don't you think? But I'm just gonna drop the link in here. Yeah, anybody in here that wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, please do. Love to be connected with you on LinkedIn. Follow our stuff on YouTube also, because that also helps. All right, let's keep going here with the questions. Reaching higher. How do we find low competition niches in starting without prior experiences? Thank you. Oh no, thanks for, I'm glad you like the content. Okay. Without prior experience, the first thing I would ask is, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to start, if you're trying to start a business from scratch, selling to the government, I would tell you, forget about it. That's going to be a very hard road for you. Right now, I can show you how to find the low competition niches. We do that in govclose, and I've done that in some of the free YouTube videos as well. You can go to usaspending.gov, click on any contract. It's going to tell you in the details how many proposals came in for that. The problem is you're looking at each individual contract versus if you pay for something like govcon'govclose, which is very expensive. But I'm sure there's other tools. I just haven't found one that does it as well. What they do is they look at everything. So if I put in, when I'm looking for niches, I usually start with like product service codes, and you can go more in detail. Product service codes tend to be a little bit more focused. So if I use the accounting example a lot because this is one of my first clients, but if I was an accounting business, and then I start looking at, providing tax preparation services, versus providing bookkeeping services versus providing something else. Well, provided there's a product service code for each of those things, I might take a look at them, and using a tool like govcon'govclose, I can see the average number of proposals that's coming in per solicitation. I don't completely trust those numbers, but big picture, if I see one of them on average 40 proposals are coming in, and in another 2 or 3, that gives me a pretty good sense of which one's going to be more or less competitive. So that's something that you can do to really hone in on where the competition is. The problem, though, is if you're trying to start a bookkeeping business and you're not an accountant, and you've never had a bookkeeping business, it's going to be really hard for you to convince the government that they should hire you, right? And again, I'm recommending to everybody, don't try selling to the government as a middleman, especially now. I would never, if I had talked to somebody from the government even 10 years ago, and they were trying to say they're the middleman between me and the business I want to hire, I'd tell them to get out of my office. I don't need a middleman, right? It's a waste of money. Why am I paying you? Now, if anyone wants to know where I think middlemen actually come in, there's no such thing as a middleman in government contracting. But there are resellers. So there are people that resell products. It always comes down to lowest price, technically acceptable, almost always. And to be successful there, you're going to have to turn into a proposal writing farm, and you're going to have deals worked out with manufacturers. So the manufacturer of the product might give you a lower rate if you're selling to the government, and that's how you can kind of make your margins there. The other thing, there is such a thing as an integrator, right? An integrator does bring multiple companies together to produce a solution, but the companies that are really successful as integrators, almost all of them started off selling something very specific. They had a very specific expertise, and then they grew into the role once they were trusted and had past performance. So that's my recommendation there. I don't know if that helps you or not, but reaching higher, if you are interested in government contracting, learn a piece of it. Learn how to write proposals, or learn business development. Learn how to sell to a specific agency. Learn about GSA. And I would then start working with companies and helping them in those areas, or going to work for a company. I think starting there is a better fit. But again, without knowing more information, not much I could do. Aman, hi Rick, I'm in Asia. I provide subcontracting sourcing with a focus on Indo-PACOM. What approach can help me? Do you mean that you are helping companies find subcontractors in Indo-PACOM? And if so, what I would do is I would find the opportunities in Indo-PACOM before a solicitation came out. So, hey, if you have an acquisitions forecast for, say, construction in Indo-PACOM over the next couple of years, what I would do is then start looking for small businesses that could be the subcontractors, or vice versa, depending on what you're exactly trying to do. Tavin, I'm a consultant focused on construction. What strategies do you have that a consultant can use to thrive within the subcontracting niche for construction trades. I love that, by the way. I love having a niche of subcontracting as a consultant. I think that's amazing. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could go with that, Tavin, but probably the one that, well, the one that's worked for me in the past, and I've thrown a lot of different things at the wall to see what sticks. A lot of businesses make a lot of money just as subcontractors in the government. And this is, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but find those opportunities early, right? Find the opportunities early, the sources sought, the acquisitions forecasts, and then you're going to start reaching out to the small businesses that would be in construction, that would be interested in those projects, right? So you have opportunities that you're bringing to them. And now this depends on who you're selling to, right? Also, if I'm selling to the small businesses that want to be subcontractors, I'm going to start, this depends on targeting, right? So this comes down to sales. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. You have to be good at sales. Part of being good at sales is being specific about who you're targeting for sales, being specific about your messaging and what you're offering. And so in construction, you're targeting construction companies, but are you targeting construction companies that have never sold to the government? Are you targeting construction companies that have been on contract with the government? Are you targeting construction companies that have already won subcontracts? I think you'll find that success may come a little bit faster if you're targeting companies that already know about the opportunity. But then the service that I've done this hundreds of times, which is how do you arrange those subcontracts? Well, you find the opportunity early. And then on behalf of those subs that are paying you, you're going to reach out to primes and tell the primes that you're working on an opportunity with the Air Force and you need a prime to do X, Y, and Z. That's when they're going to respond to you, and you'll be able to like drive some real benefit and value for your people. Let's see here. Okay, so this is from Richard Gunn. By the way, I'm going to drop, for those of you interested, I'm dropping the GovClose website into the chat. You guys can, if you're interested, you can talk to our team, our onboarding team, see if you wanted to go through a program and work with us and generate some results. Richard, I'm an Army retired logistics NCO, and I learned a lot from supply support, contracting, and prop management. Awesome. I want to use these skills to do consulting. You can absolutely do that, but don't know where. Any recommend? Well, I recommend you go to govclose.com. But and by the way, tons and tons of veterans in our program. In fact, I would go to govclose.com just to, if you click on the link that I just put in there and then click on become an expert, I'll even go through that for you here. And then I share my screen if I knew how to do that with this. Usually I use a streaming software, and now I'm not. If you go to that link, click on watch now, and it's going to take you to a page that has some of our graduates on there. You can also go to my LinkedIn page and see some of our graduates from GovClose. A lot of veterans. The first thing I would do is talk to one of them, talk to somebody that's actually doing it. You want to do a couple things here, right? First of all, what do you want to, okay, so you're saying you either want to be a consultant or you want to sell to the gov, right? If you want to be a consultant, then this is what I did. I started a business, right? Now I knew I had the government contracting expertise. I kind of knew what I wanted to do. So you need to have a business to be a consultant, but before you do anything, before you spend a ton of money, go out there and get a client, right? Now we go through that. We teach a lot of that. There are lots of ways to find your initial clients. But in order to get a client, you got to know what you want to help them do. Do you want to help them sell to the government? Do you want to help them with something else like program management? One of the things I really love about government contracting from the perspective of consulting is it is extremely niche, meaning it's hard. Most people do not know what the F they are talking about when it comes to government contracting. Even some of the most popular people out there that like whatever social media, not all of them. There's some good ones, but there's some just trash out there. There's garbage that is just designed to throw people off, get them to spend money. if you actually understand government contracting, which is what we're teaching in these videos, and you go out and really legitimately are trying to help a company, you can do really, really well. There's not a lot of competition because most people just don't understand this. And here's the thing with selling: if you're helping somebody to make money, if you're helping a company make money, there's not much of a better consulting niche to be in. And government contract, the US government is the single biggest purchaser of goods and services in the world, and almost no company's taking advantage of it. So look, when it comes to your background, Richard, you're a retired Army. If a guy like you approached a few companies, hey, I'm from the Army. I help, and your message was something like this: I help small IT businesses win government contracts with the U.S. Army. You have an Army background. You have a little contracting background. I mean, who better to help them than you? I think you could do very well. That's what I would be doing. Come up with an offer, and your pricing. I would start trying to sell and pick up a couple clients. If you want help with that, you can check out govclose, or look, just go check out the rest of our YouTube. I have so many interviews with. I just did one, Rich, with another Army guy, Mark Snakenberg. He retired recently. He's got a consulting business. He's working in the space, so he has done that transition. I did another one probably 4 or 5 months ago with Ivan. Ivan is an Army Reserve officer. He's like 28. What's funny, he got through with our program. I mean, it's a year. He got certified in a couple of months. He's still in our program, but he picked up 3 clients within like 2 weeks of getting certified that are paying him monthly. And then he got hired at Honeywell and just doing great, just kicking ass. You can do really well. So hopefully that helps. Reaching higher. Thank you so much. Nope. Thank you. Brett, I've been a full-time independent B2G consultant since 2017. That's awesome. Okay. I'm strong when it comes to getting my existing clients on contract. However, I'm weak when it comes to landing new clients. Yeah. I mean, look, that's pretty common, right? That's why it really helps to, whether it's joining us here, reading about client acquisition is really going to help you. There are a lot of great books. I'm looking at my shelf here to see if I have them because I'm terrible with names. Let's just talk about some of the people you could follow on social media, right? There's always the big names like the Gary V's. There's who's the guy with the beard? Do you guys remember his name? The young guy, Hormozi. Really great. Those guys can teach you a lot about like social media and getting leads. But I think that where I would direct you is more towards the cold calling and email marketing. Brett, you can also check out places like Catalent. Catalent's a service that basically takes kind of information specialists and matches them with companies. I got one of my first clients through them. Upwork is more of a, I don't know if it's as good as when I started. I probably did like $40,000 ish of consulting work through them, in $5,000 ish increments. When I first started, but I got off of that. I don't like those. I don't like to stay on platforms like that because they take a piece of your money. So I got off as quickly as I could. Eventually you want to get to bringing in inbound traffic and having a very strong outbound, meaning email. You're collecting your leads. You are cold calling companies. Cold calling is probably the best way if you've got the stomach for it. But look, everybody's not a salesperson. And I have a sales team for a reason. I don't handle the sales in my company anymore because I know enough because I sold for the first 3 years. I did all the selling. Sales is an amazing profession, and it is a talent that you have to work on. And so there's plenty of books. I would just start looking out there. If anyone has books and resources, throw it in the comments that you'd recommend. But yeah, spend some time learning about how to acquire leads in your profession. Talk to some of the people that have been through GovClose. We teach lead acquisition, a very specific way to do that here. I've never had a problem getting leads for government contracting, consulting. I can tell you that. It's always been more targeting, making sure that I'm talking with the right companies and that I have the right offer for them. And then, and by the way, the fact that you're really good once you're on contract, that speaks volumes about you. Like that just says that, hey, you're a professional, you care about your clients, you want them to get results. That's what makes a great consultant in any space. But you do have to figure out the sales piece. So either learn it for yourself or hire someone to do it for you. You always have to be selling though. John, I'm working with a friend to find him work for his 5-axis manufacturing business. Huge past performance with military airplane parts, sub to sub work. I need to win contracts higher up that chain. I'm working with a friend to find him for his 5-axis manufacturing business. I'm not really sure what that means. I know what a manufacturing business is, and maybe he's manufacturing airplane parts because that's what you go on to say. Sub to sub work. Does that mean that he's working with other subcontractors, maybe providing airplane parts? Airplane parts, there's a few things to look at. Look at the Defense Logistics Agency, NSN numbers. There's a few things. When we're talking about aircraft parts, there are places that fabricate aircraft parts. There are manufacturers of aircraft parts which are sold, and they each have NSN numbers. This is where it gets, like I said, this is not straightforward. There's a lot to government contracting. I would look up the Defense Logistics Agency, airplane parts, NSN numbers. You're gonna have to do some research to see how they're sold. Go to USA Spending, take a look at who's doing the purchasing. If they're already manufacturing these aircraft parts, if he has NSN numbers already for them, then it's just going to be a matter of figuring out, are most of them, how are they being purchased? Are these being purchased are they being openly competed on contracts? Is it something, are they going through another avenue? Like Defense Logistics Agency has their own little portal for like parts and tools and shit. So I don't want to swear here. I got to watch my mouth, my Boston Air Force jargon. But I would check that out first and kind of know subcontracting. If it's government subcontracting, we can see, hey, are these parts wrapped up in bigger contracts? Are you selling to primes? It's probably actually a big market for that, where you'd actually be selling to other businesses that have government contracts. So that's where I would start. Ron, what's up, man? I was recently, let's see, this guy's name is Full Send Hexacan. I was recently awarded a 5-year blanket purchase agreement. So he wrote BPA in the comments if you guys are reading along. Can this ceiling be raised? Check out, let me see if I can find the video. So look, there's going to be, first of all, every contract is a little bit different, right? But I also say in government contracting, there is a tremendous amount of gray area. So I don't think anything's impossible. I want to throw a note down here because we recently did a video. One of the students in our program, I had Colonel Orndorff. He is one of our associates. He was a 30-year Defense Contract Management Agency contracting officer. So contracting officer in acquisitions, federal acquisitions, is kind of like a lawyer. Like they really understand each specific contract, proposals. Whenever I have a client or a student that has a contract with the government and we want to optimize it, or if there's a problem, I bring him in. And we recently did a video with one of our students where he was on a contract, I think it was with the VA, making about $200,000 a year, no profit. But the VA kept asking for more stuff. He thought he just had to do it. I think you should watch that video because Colonel Orndorff walks with him through everything in the contract and then how to approach the government to ask for more money. Okay, so I think that is a good place to start. If I can find that video while we're on, I'm going to drop a link in there for you. I know I can. Here it is. I just found it. So let's see. Copy. Okay, I'm going to drop a link to that video right here. So you guys can see that. That's just a recorded session from our GovClose platform, just an interview with, it's not even an interview, just a sit down. Colonel Orndorff, and I think it's Steven is in there. You can watch that. Hopefully that provides you some value. Wondering how much opportunity. Okay. Was recently awarded. Yeah. So I don't know how much opportunity you really have there to increase the ceiling on the blanket purchase agreement. The blanket purchase agreement is an amazing opportunity because it's basically, for anyone that doesn't know, this is like typically the way BPA works is the government needs a way to make purchases. And this is why like an open competition takes a long time. So if the government can do something like award a contract vehicle where a bunch of companies compete, then they're on the vehicle, it has a ceiling. That's the way the government can make purchases quickly after it's already been competed. A blanket purchase agreement is for small businesses. And typically if a government office wants to, they could award a blanket purchase agreement. Usually it's going to have a ceiling on it. And then they can make awards up to a certain amount. Just the number escapes me right now, but it's in the hundreds of thousands usually. So, but they can continually do that until they hit the ceiling. So, there may be a limit on what each individual delivery order on the blanket purchase agreement is, but it's possible you can leverage that BPA in different ways. So, by the way, also another opportunity with that BPA is just advertise the fact that you have that BPA. So if I am talking with other government shops about contracts, you better believe I'm telling them, just like earlier we were talking about, hey, if I have commercial performance or I worked on a state project, I'm telling them I worked on the state project. I'm telling them I have a blanket purchase agreement with another government agency. I'm telling them that I have GSA. Every possible way that the government can buy from you or you can build confidence in your business. That's what I'm forecasting. Okay. Awesome. Richard, Ronald, you wrote Daniel Pink books. I don't think I've read any Daniel Pink books. Have to check that out. Oh, thanks, Brett. Appreciate it. Oh, Ron. It's a machine shop. Got it. John T. Yeah. 5-axis machine, carbon fiber parts, plastics. Yeah. There's usually, by the way, like fabrication and fabricating parts. Not only is there a opportunity in government contracting for fabricating parts for the government, there's also an opportunity by looking at the different types of parts you can fabricate and seeing if the government buys them. Like, for instance, there was a fab company I worked with. And usually when I am working with a company, like I tell you guys, I start with the research and the data. I don't work with any company unless we have gone through that, and they have to pay for it, right? But you can do it for free for yourselves. What is the data telling me? And when we looked and saw where the niches were, competition and spending, we saw things like shipping containers, which their shop could fabricate, almost no competition. And the government was spending, I think it was hundreds of millions of dollars on these shipping containers. So finding the niche, that's what I would be doing, is looking at what you buy, look at what you can make versus what the government's buying as a place to start. Ron, how many GovClose graduates do you have, and how many of those are seeing results? I have, let's see here, right now in the program, it's a year-long program. Currently, there's 149 students in the program. Of them, it takes everybody a certain different amount of time to actually get through it. Of the people that are in the program right now, it is between 20 and 30 graduates. I would have to take a look at my spreadsheet here. How many are getting results? Most of them are getting results. And in fact, I send out emails about these results a lot. I have one who has government contracts. He has a business, but he's also picking up clients now as a consultant, recent grad. I have, by the way, they're not all, I don't want to say, hey, all 30 of them or 28 of them, or however many there are. All of them don't have clients right now. I have some of them that are starting businesses for the first time, but I work with them still every week. So 3 of them, just to give you an idea, one of them, David, started out with his email marketing, wasn't getting any results. We worked on his messaging and his targeting. And then, he has had probably 15-ish calls. So now he's with companies. So now he's got proposals out there. He's still waiting to get hired, right? So that's an example of someone that just graduated doing it, doesn't have the contract yet, but it's coming. His ability to schedule calls with companies is actually really outstanding. I told him he might even consider just doing that as a business because he's so good at it. But then I mentioned Ivan. Ivan's in the position where he's got more work than he can actually do. So I think that he's more focused now on the full-time position. He's got a couple of consulting clients. I've got multiple others that have consulting clients. Some of them also have a full-time position that they're working on, and their goal is to get off of that full-time job and just do consulting work. So what I tell And what I would tell you, whether you don't have to go through GovClose for this, but if you want to be a consultant, it's actually a really great way to approach kind of owning your career, owning your day, because you can keep your job and start picking up as you start learning more. Pick up consulting clients. You don't have to have too many of these consulting clients to be making more than you're making with your job. For me, the way I like to do it is I like to say, all right, well, how much am I making? If I was making 10 grand a month after taxes with my JOB, I would want to probably have double that coming in from consulting for a little while. That's only, you could do that with 4 clients. Because I want to make sure that not only do I have enough money coming in, I want to make sure our students too have the ability to fluctuate. If they lose a client, they have some money in the bank, or if they need to also realize, if you're working with clients, you do have to be selling and working with clients at the same time. So if you want to know like what the actual strategy or the approach is I am always selling an initial project, right? That could be anything. If you're a proposal writer, it could be writing a proposal. For me, it's probably assembling a sales strategy. It may be a training event, but that initial project is usually going to be between $5,000 and $10,000. That's a pretty easy for a company to make a company. We're selling to businesses. For a business to make a $5,000 to $10,000 consulting purchase is not a big deal, and they're not making a big commitment. But the key is you have to deliver, right? So if I sell 5 projects like that, I guarantee 3 of them are going to want to be my regular customers, because I'm showing them results. I'm putting together a plan, and they're going to need help executing it. Same for you. No matter what your niche is, you're selling an initial part of that, and you're demonstrating to the company that you can do the work. You're getting to know them. They're getting to know you. And then after that, that's when you start going for a client that's paying you a monthly fee. And that's how you generate that recurring income. It's all about income streams. I'm a huge proponent. I want to have multiple income streams. If you're consulting or doing anything, you want to make sure that if you lose one client, it's not going to kill you, right? You need to be able to bring more on. Like, I know I could send an email right now. If I wanted a client, I could get one. I could have one within a week, at least a couple projects sold if I needed the income. That's the other value of consulting. You may love your full-time job, right? But maybe you just need tuition payment for your kid or car payment, right? Sell a consulting project. Everyone out there should have an LLC. Not only is it great you want that if you're doing consulting work, but also for tax purposes. If you have to buy a computer, you write it off of your business, right? Just make sure you're doing everything legally. Talk to your accountant. We go over a lot of that in GovClose as well. And am I teaching, Ronald? Oh, am I teaching directly? Yeah, I am. So if people go in, I don't think I can share. Can I share my screen? No, I can't. I keep saying that. I'll use the streaming software next time. Yes, I do teach directly. So GovClose. So just for anyone that's interested or actually wondering what they're doing, once somebody's admitted into the program, they get access to 2 things. They get access to our community portal, and they get access to our courses. Now, the coursework they go through, those are videos in short increments, going from beginning to, like, this is GovCon, to advanced selling strategies, with a high focus on the deliverables. So everyone that goes through, they can't certify unless they put together a roadmap. I onboard everyone myself, meaning our admissions team brings them in. Everyone sits down with me because I want to know what your goals are. So some people have a goal of starting a consulting business. Some people have a goal of selling to the government with their own business. Some people want to go get a job, one of those 6-figure salaried account executive jobs, which can get very, very lucrative, especially the ones with commissions. Some want to do a combination, so I onboard everybody, figure out what your goals are, and then they go through the program. They go through the coursework, they put together a roadmap, they put together a pipeline of leads, there's a few other things. And then they get me again at the end because I certify them, and everyone that gets certified gets a letter of recommendation from me, which helps when they're trying to get a job. I give them the LinkedIn profile recommendation. They also are going to get, there's a few other things, but they also get the GovClose CRM, which is designed just for government contracting, which they can use with clients, they can use for themselves. We have some sales teams and companies in the program as well. And I have a weekly coaching. So There's a weekly group coaching where I and whoever can make it to that session, we get on there and we talk about the program, how they're going through it. That gets recorded and put in the community section. And the community is really what has taken off that I didn't bank on when I started this. Because what we're getting is just amazing people. We have former government acquisitions officers in here. We have people coming from a variety of professions, medical, construction. We have a lot of vets. We have kids just out of college. My niece just got hired by an aviation company as a intern, a paid internship after she went through. So we get people of all walks of life getting results. And really the big difference here is this is not like you go through, you click through a couple slides and you're getting a certification or you're learning. This is a 1-year program. And the whole point of this is everybody that is in here, first of all, there's a reason like only 30 of the 140 or 9 people are certified so far. It's because it's hard to get through. It's not easy. So don't join if you don't want to do work. You're not going to get through it. You will though, if you put the effort in to learn the material and to do the road mapping, then I will personally certify you. But that almost matters less than we want to get results. We have to get results on the back end. So if it takes you 3 months to get through, on the backside of this, we have to go get you that job. You need clients. You need to win those government contracts. So after everyone graduates, then they move over to the war room. And that's all our graduates where we talk about how to get business, how to sell to the government, real world problems, real world solutions. So that's the program. Okay, let me see here. I can get to a few more of these. And there's the link. Let's see. All right, I'm not going to post that link again. This wasn't intended to be a sales video. Am I teaching directly? Okay, so I think I already answered that, Rob. Yes, I do teach directly. I teach everything. The only time I'm not teaching is if I bring another expert into the program, like Colonel Orndorff, contracting officer. He handles some of our coaching calls, helps people with proposals, contracts, contract troubleshooting. David, my office furniture company received 8A. Awesome, congrats. At the end of last year, what do you think is the best way to optimize it? I've got 1,000 thoughts about this. And I might not have enough time to talk about all of them. I probably don't. So what I'm going to do is, let me see, I'm going to post the video link for you to watch where I sat down with one of the best 8A experts I know. And we do a lot of 8A work. Let me see if I can find his name's Kevin. Kevin, where are you? 8A. Sorry, guys. I'm kind of making the sausage here as I go through it. The core of my 8A strategy. So when you receive, here we go. I've got it. I'll post the link here in a second. The key to 8A, first of all, you're only 8A for a limited amount of time. A lot of companies don't fully take advantage of this. One thing that you need to do is the research, USA spending. You can see who is awarding 8A contracts. So first, make a list of the offices that are awarding these contracts. Next thing that you want to do, aside from reaching out to them, you can go to small business meetings with them. You want them to know you exist. I also will look up contracts that were awarded via the 8A sole source process. You can do that on USA spending. And because 8A companies graduate, some of those contracts that you find, which will be recurring contracts, like maybe it's a 3 or 5 year contract, well, some of those companies will have graduated from the 8A program already, right? Which makes your business a potential shoo-in for a sole source 8A contract award. So I'm not going to go any more into it. I could talk about that for 2 hours. That link that I just put in there, that's just a link to the 8A video that I did with Kevin. Yes, that's correct. So I would watch that. Yeah, 8A could potentially help you, but go do your research. Hello from Paris. Awesome. Is the course 1 year or self-paced? Well, it's 1 year. You have 1 year access to everything, but yes, it's self-paced. So you don't have to go through it in a month, right? You don't have to go through it in 6 months, but I recommend taking your time, go through it. I think a couple months is plenty to go through everything, do the deliverables, even if you have a job and everything. There's nothing excruciating that you're going to go through here. It's just especially the roadmap. So you have to complete all the courses, you have to complete the deliverables. And then look, the real work is we want you to either have consulting clients, win contracts with the government, get that job. So after certification, that's when the work starts. I love it. And I love seeing the results we're getting. Hopefully that answers your question. Can a person who does not reside in America do your training? Yeah, absolutely. I think we have someone from Canada. Government contracting. So if you're selling to the government, you don't have to have a US-based business. There are companies all around the world that sell to the US government, but it depends on what you're selling, right? So the problem is, so if you're selling directly to the government, some things are easier than others. The hard stuff comes when, if you want to sell anything software-wise, equipment-wise, that would like hook up to a government network that has cybersecurity requirements. Now we're talking about a problem with non-US companies and personnel being involved. So it just depends on, what you're trying to sell. Now, certainly you can be a consultant from anywhere, right? You don't have to be a US citizen. You don't have to live in the country. In fact, we have US citizens that live all over the world, but we also have people that are from other countries that are doing this kind of work. Ross lives in Germany. Looks like a friggin' movie whenever he turns his camera around. He's in the mountains over there by Garmisch, Germany, if anyone knows where that is. So, you could do this. I was in Puerto Rico last week, ran my business from there without skipping a beat. I might have answered a few less emails than I normally do. But look, if you have an internet connection and a laptop, you can be a consultant from anywhere. Government contracting, like if you're the one selling to the government, a few more restrictions. If you're going to work for a company, again, it kind of depends on what that company is doing. Do I ever do anything on a commission basis? Commissions in the government are regulated just like everything else. So if you go to the FAR, Federal Acquisitions Regulations, and look up commissions, commissions are listed under contingent fees. And I'm going to say they're prohibited, but they're not strictly prohibited. So I have done commission. I never work for commission only. So if there is a prohibition that I would never even try to do, I would never work just for a commission for 100 reasons. Primarily, what the FAR says about this, because the Federal Acquisitions Regulations are really just trying to prevent anyone from using undue influence to bring in a contract. At one point, commissions were completely banned. Right now, if you work for a company, so if you're a salaried employee, you can get paid a commission, because that commission, your employment there you're not just getting paid for bringing a contract in. This is one big difference between commercial versus government. Okay, so if you're a company, don't pay someone just a commission, because it's not legal. And if somebody wants to work that way, by the way, they can take the contract away from you if they find out about it. They can make you pay them back for anything they paid you. So you could be getting into some hot water. There's gray area around this. The way to truly be safe, if you're on contract, you could be getting paid as a bona fide, I want to say it's a bona fide consultant, or as an employee and receive a commission. Again, the problem is when it's just the commission alone. So hopefully that answers your question. How do you do business with a commissary? That's actually a really great question. There's so many different angles on this. It's what I love. Look up the exchange, the BX exchange. And when you go on there, there's going to be a tab that you can click on for small business. So they have their own system there, but I would start with the exchange website. I live in Germany as well, and I'm taking the course. Oh yeah. What's up, Alan? Cool. Well, hopefully I'll see you on the coaching call. And God, how long have we gone on here for? It's already 11:40. So I guess that's going to be in about 2 hours. So I got to go to the gym. I just started selling to the DLA, Defense Logistics Agency, for anyone not. So this is Eddie. I don't know much about the DLA. I'm not even a salesman for that matter. How can your course help me? Well, it will teach you a lot about government contracts. That's for sure. As far as selling directly to the DLA, is it your business? That would be the first thing I'd ask. Is it your business, or are you in a sales position in that company? That could matter. It does matter. What you're going to learn is we don't start with, we're selling to the DLA. We start with, what are you selling, right? Are you selling cybersecurity services? Are you selling equipment? Are you selling whatever? Are you selling hyperspectral imaging software? We start with the thing, and then we go to the data. Who is buying that? A lot of companies are selling to an agency. They never bothered to check this. So they may be selling to the DLA, and we realize, hey, the DLA is actually like number 4 on the list of people purchasing. We should be targeting Lifecycle Management Center or Aberdeen Proving Ground or Wright Pat Air Force Base, AFRL office. I won't get too far into that, but you see what I'm saying, right? So first, who's doing the buying? Who should we be selling to? Who buys from companies like ours? We reverse engineer everything from that. It may come out that the DLA is still who they should be selling to. But even there, it's the core thing you learn in the program is, so, okay, awesome. DLA aviation. This is what you're going to learn in the core. This is what I would tell you if I was onboarding you right now. I'd say, first and foremost, if you have 2 contracts with DLA aviation, double down on the relationships that you have there. Every piece of software that I sold personally for one of our clients, never wrote a proposal. Everything was through my relationships with those offices. And I didn't have them when I started. I reached out because they had these contracts. So you're reaching out to those offices. Hey, how is the product or service that we provide? Are there any problems? At least once a month. Oh, hey, we need help here. So you help them, you optimize it. It's like if you guys watch Gary Vee, he has that left, right, or jab, jab, right hook. Yeah, you're helping them. Oh, by the way, I do these other things. Oh, that's awesome. We're already on contract. Once you're on contract with the government, they can find ways to put you on contract a lot easier. Like that, the first one's hard. After that, double down on the relationship. And then ask them, guess what? Contracting officers and program managers, they hang out with other acquisitions guys. Who else do you know that could use our product or service? That's the other piece. So that's where I would start you. And then I would say, if you're in the program, you do the roadmap and you know the other mechanism, who's buying whatever it is you're selling, and developing a way to sell to them. So that's what you learn in our program. Can you do it from Paris? Yeah, you can be a consultant from Paris. If you got a laptop, and I'm sure they have the internet in Paris. I've only stopped there on a flight. I've flown over it a bunch. Alan, I know you. You said the coaching calls are held at a good time so I can participate and it's not too late. Good. And I should, sometimes I need some prompting, but I record all of them and post them eventually. Let's see, feel free to send me. Oh, so I guess Alan's saying to everybody else. So yeah, Alan's in the program, guys. You can reach out to him in the chat here. And if you have any questions about that. All right. Great. Thanks for the input. I'll check the other video. Okay, awesome. All right, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Thanks for meeting with me today. Enjoyed answering your questions. We will see you next week. If you guys think that this is something that you'd like to see, like once a week or something, I can do that. If you think there's a better time for it, I would love to know. And yeah, if anyone wants to learn more, head on over to govclose.com. If you just want to kind of not talk to anybody and search through videos, just look at our database of videos on YouTube. That's really, just about anything you can think of government contracting wise is probably in there. And if it's not, just send me a note. My email's on the channel, and I'll get around to making a video about it. So, all right, we'll see you again. Have a great weekend.